Hello everyone, Zeno What If here. Those that are new to the channel, subscribe to see some of the content I made. Leave a comment down below for any ideas. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Link down in the description of the fanfiction of this, What If. To bring in part 20 of What If the Gate appeared in G.I. Joe. Chapter 38, Casus Belli. 2 hours later, the fire in Tully's mansion has finally died out. The sweepers and Imperial troops entered and start searching. Soon, they've found the secret exit. We found the secret exit, said the chairman of the Pretoria Committee. It would seems that Marquise Castle and Sherry Tully had escaped by using it. And you didn't take any appropriate actions to capture them? Asked Lucullus. Do you really expect for them to hide in some hole, like rats, waiting for you to take them? And no, of course not, mumbled the chairman. Your sloppy leadership has already cost us 30 good men, said Lucullus. On top of that, you allowed the leader of the Doves party to escape. His Majesty Emperor Zorzel will not be pleased when he hear this news. He's certainly not, a new voice chimed in, and entered Vendetta. Lady Cassiopeia, gasped Lucullus, what are you doing here? I've been sent by Emperor Zorzel to have your report about this unfortunate blunder, answered Vendetta. He's not very pleased that you've allowed Marquise Castle to get away with Sherry Tully. They've set their own house on fire, protested the chairman. We couldn't do anything to stop it. Wrong, answered Vendetta. You could have done much more, if you've been so smart and cover the other streets, so that nothing would slip past the blockade. Haven't you told enough to take such high position as the head of the Pretoria Committee? Or is it because you're too lazy and stupid to handle this kind of a job? But, Lady Cassiopeia, said the chairman, we did arrested most of the Doves. Their numbers aren't matter, answered Vendetta. What matter is the capture of the most important targets, like the members of the royal family, specifically Princess Pina and Prince Diabo. These Tayulis were the last noble family, who was left in the capital. The rest are either captured or fled. Now, with them gone, all is dependent on capture those two remaining fugitives. Unfortunately, I see that you're not fit enough for this kind of assignment, Chairman. But, lady, muttered the terrified chairman. No, buts, Vendetta shuts him up. You know the rules. You fail the Pretoria, and you must pay the price. Praetor. At once, Lady Cassiopeia, answered Lucullus. Then he took out his dagger and stabbed the chairman to death. Excellent, smiled wickedly Vendetta, then turned to others shocked. Sweepers, let this be a lesson to all of you. You fail our emperor, and you pay with your lives. Now, are there any suggestions? How are we gonna capture those two? Well, aren't any of you have brains to serve his majesty? Perhaps I've got the suggestion, said Gimlet. We've already sent a squad to pursue Marquise and the girl. However, it's quite possible that they're underway to the Jade Palace, where the embassy lies. It's obvious that they're gonna seek the refuge with the other worlders. I see, said Lucullus, so by this we will have the political means to finally arrest the other worlders. And if I remember correctly, Princess Pina is also there. By this, we can capture not just Castle, but also the entire group of enemies of the Empire. His Majesty will certainly be pleased about this. Quite an excellent idea, Gimlet Gin Lime, said Vendetta. Then by the powers invested in me by His Majesty, Emperor Zorzel I, I hereby appoint you as the new chairman of Pretoria, and the Scorchiers. Thank you, Madam Cassiopeia, bowed Gimlet. I will not fail His Majesty. You better hope that you don't, snorted Vendetta. Remember, he does not take kindly to failures. You may take any Imperial troops you want, but do whatever it takes to capture the targets we seek. As you command, Madam Cassiopeia, said Gimlet. You've heard her, men. Let's go. But what if Princess Pina refused to give in to the special laws, asked Lucullus. Then she'll be considered as an insurgent, who rebels against the Imperial laws, answered Vendetta. You may do as you see fit, Lucullus, but don't screw up again. Yes, madam, answered Lucullus and leaves with other sweepers. Excellent, grinned Vendetta, as she walked to her carriage. Everything is going according to plan. Once those fools come to the Jade Palace, they'll start the conflict, which will soon engulf the whole empire. And in the end, I'll be over it with my son as my regent as Empress Cassiopeia. She then laughed madly, as she seated in her carriage, which drives her to the imperial palace. At night in Tokyo, a column of military trucks moved by the streets of Ginza. While the police was busy clearing the streets and making sure that no one get in the way, the column of Unimogs, Isuzu, Ural, Kamaz, M35 and other vehicles were continued to move towards the gate. As they've drive through the gate and entered the Fort Ginza, the truck stopped, allowing the troops to disembark. Soon, the commanders of the units entered the main HQ building. General Major Sabe reporting for duty, Lieutenant. General, said the Japanese commander. Brigadier General Augustine reporting for duty, sir, said the American commander. Lieutenant. General Maximov reporting for duty, General, said the Russian commander. General Major Sajawi reporting for duty, sir, said the Indian commander. Welcome, gentlemen, said Hazama, I'm glad that you've finally made it. I'm sorry that we don't have much time to talk, so I'll be brief. As you know, the Big Three and Prime Minister Tsurugi has sanctioned the Operation Peace Dove. The main goal of this operation will be the rescue of all political prisoners held in Sidera. As of now, the imperial capital is in the middle of political coup. All hell there is breaking loose, with the usurper on the throne and warhawks in power, who's now rounding up all their possible oppositions. It's a regular junta rolling there, gentlemen, and we can't do a thing about. As you know, since the Emperor Molt has signed the unconditional surrender, the war is technically over. Unfortunately, with the coup that been occurred in the capital, it's only a matter of time before the fighting's resumed. Due to our status, we cannot interfere with any political debacle in Sidera. However, that also leaves us with the opportunity to save anyone who seeks peace with us. Those political prisoners Zorzal have are the main key to stabilize the situation in Falmart by forming a legitimate government, which will allow us to finally put an end to Zorzal's junta and secure the peace within the empire. Right now, the best way to help these people is by going with the airborne operation. Speed and swift actions are the main key to success, gentlemen. That's where you come in. You're the best airborne commanders our world has to offer, so to you we entrust the important task, to go and rescue those people. Yes, sir, answered the generals. Good, said Hazama, now then, we'll have a day before we begin the operation, during which our forces in Sidera will provide us with all intelligence we need. In the meantime, your troops will have a full day of field practice before they'll embark on this mission. That's all, gentlemen, now let's get to work. Near the Jade Palace, there was a numerous tents of Rose Order. Inside one of them, Bozes was resting after a day of duty, while eating sour fruits, when suddenly, Pina and Cilia entered the tent. Bozes, said Pina. Yes, princess, answered the blonde knight, jumping to her feet. Gather the commanders and tell them to report to the command tent, said Pina, and tell that to the non-commissioned officers as well. Yes, princess. Oh, and one more thing, Bozes. Yes, princess. Clear your throat, you're smelling awfully with those fruits. Bozes sweated embarrassingly. Yes, princess. A few minutes later, Pina was gathered with her knights, imperial and palace guards, Cilias, Knight Sabers, U.S. Army Rangers and G.I. Joes. I'm sorry to waken you up in the middle of the night, said Pina, but I'm afraid we have an emergency. We've just received the reports that the Scorchiers are on their way to the Jade Palace, said Cilia. Currently, the Imperial troopers have begun to amass around the palace grounds, practically surrounding us. It's just a matter of time before they'll make a move on Jade Palace to capture the envoys and your princess. As you already know, currently the Sweepers has round up most of the pro-peace faction members, said Pina. Right now, the only ones who can oppose my brother is me and you, so it's only logical that Zorzal will attempt to capture the Jade Palace. We no longer can rely on diplomatic immunity. As I already spoken to you, I am not and never will submit to the will of my brother. If he wants a fight, then we'll give him one. We've also received reports that a group of important political refugees are on their way to Jade Palace, said Cilia. I am also need to inform you that our commander Centurion Prime, who's currently in Sidera, has decided to send us some reinforcements. What? Gasped Beefeater. Sir Prime is here, in Sidera. That's right, said Cilia. He's currently in command of rescuing operation to free the Doves from Basan prison, where they held However, considering that he's got his hands full, there's little help he can provide us from Akusho. Therefore, he decided to send to us your fellow knights, Grey County Aldo and his brother, Alexander County Aldo, as well as Rory Mercury. This news has put the rest of the knights and Imperial Guards in shock. Rory Mercury, gasped Borbos, here. That's right, said Cilia, currently, they're on their way here with political refugees. I've been already talked with Vice Minister Shirayuri and Ambassador Sugawara, and they all agree to accept them here. Trouble is, the sweepers were hot on their trail as well. I've already sent out the scouts, Lady Stingray Abernathy, said Beefeater. You've done well, Beefeater, said Pina, but considering that the sweepers were also might bring the Imperial Army, I'd say we're moments away from the actual fighting to start. So therefore, I want you to put all roses on alert. This will be the first real battle for us since the Battle of Italica, and I expect all of you to do your duties with honor and pride, as you always did. That's about all. Everyone, dismissed. As everyone leaves, Beefeater stopped with Boses. Why are you eating those sour fruits, Boses? She asked. I don't know, answered Boses, but for some reason, I've been developed a cravings for sour. You know, there's many of our knights think that you might be pregnant, smiled Beefeater. Maybe I am, confessed Boses. What? Gasped Beefeater loudly, how can you do this? You're the daughter of Marquise Palesti, and you're not married yet. Think what your father will say about you. I don't care, answered Boses. Oh, by Emroy, shouted Beefeater, grabbing her friend and shaking her hysterically, show some respect, will ya? How could you abandon your own privilege over a foreigner? That's enough, Beefeater, said Pina, entering the tent, stop shaking her. But, Princess, Beefeater hysterically turned to her, don't you understand? This blonde bimbo has done exactly what her heart tells her to do, finished Pina. What? Gasped Beefeater, don't tell me that you too. Why not? Smiled Pina, after all, I am a princess, and by the rights of my family, I can have any man I want. Beefeater was standing with her mouth wide open, as Pina walked to Boses. Now, Boses, she said to her friend, confess, or you're really pregnant. Muttered Boses, yes, your highness. Then it makes me really happy, exclaims Pina, as she hugged confused blonde woman, I've been long time waiting for your romance with Sir Tomita to develop. Now, it seems it's only a matter of time, before I'll attend to your wedding. Why, thank you, your highness, muttered Boses, by the way, how is your relations with Sir Mitchell? Don't worry about that, we've got all figure out, answered Pina, but for now, I need you to be in top shape. I don't want anything happen to you, my friend. Thank you, your highness, smiled Boses. I'm sorry to interrupt your romantic chit-chat, ladies, said Cilia, entering the tent, but I've just received words from your scouts, Lady Beefeater. What have they said, Lady Stingray Abernathy? Asked Pina, turning to her. According to them, the sweepers are about few miles from the fugitives they're chasing. ASN word Cilia, it's only a matter of time, before they'll come to Jade Palace itself. That means, the rest of the Scorchiers will be nearby, said Beefeater. Then it's time, said Pina, sound the alert. Have all our forces on full standby and be ready for the fight. Yes, my princess, saluted Beefeater. You need to hold them off for a few minutes, princess, said Cilia, by the time, our forces will have the defensive positions ready. Yes, General Stingray Abernathy, answered Pina, you've heard her, roses, it's show time. Soon, the trumpeters were sounding the signal. Special call up, herded the voices, all knights, equip Type 2 armor and gather at the command tent. In their tents, Imperial Guards were putting on their armor and helmets. The knights get on their horses and rided to the main tent. Don't think that you're retired until you dead, barked Borbos, hurry up. Fall in before the main tent. Inside the Jade Palace, the Knight Sabers putting on their hard suits, while the Rangers were getting their gear ready. While behind the palace, the pilots were getting ready their mobile suits, which were secretly delivered to the Jade Palace in order to reinforce the defenses. Aside from the usual war mobile suits, there were also special construction suits, designed to fortify the positions. Unlike other mobile suits, these were been equipped with the construction equipment needed for special purposes. These suits were the first to deploy, as they've begun to construct the positions at the palace gardens. Meanwhile, in front of the command tent, the Rose Order Knights have gathered, with the Imperial Guards in front. Pina soon emerges from the tent, also dressed in her battle armor. All white, yellow, red, black and blue knights have been assembled, my princess, reported Bozes. Good, replied Pina, gather the non-commissioned officers and take defensive positions. And send for Lady Stingray Abernathy, her, Knight Sabers, and Sir Sugawara. Have them come to the command tent, it's time for us to greet our newcomers. Rory, Sherry, Marquis Castle and Aldo brothers has approached the Jade Palace. Their helpers the ghosts has left them, saying that they can go by themselves from their point, while they've got another things to do. Looks like they've increased the security, said Castle, they told us, that the knights are just amateurs and others are too old to fight. Too old, snorted Gray, bah. It's obviously, that you've never met any of Princess's Thorns. These are the finest warriors we've trained with my brother. That's right, said Alexander, plus, many of these girls have went through Italica and endure the siege there. On top of that, many of them have been trained by Rory's herald. That's right, smiled Rory, and if you think, that the old guard is nothing, wait till you see, what those veterans can do. Now, come on, it's time for us to go to Jade Palace. As she walked out of the woods, the others followed. Halt, shouted one of the guards, who goes there? Rory Mercury, answered the apostle of Emroy, god of death, war, crime and punishment. The guards gasped, as they saw Rory coming to them. They bowed before her. Praise the Emroy for blessing his faithful servants to grant us the salvation, said one of the guards, we are pleased, that you've come, apostle of Emroy. Our princess is waiting for you. Thank you, smiled Rory, as she passed the guards, followed by her companions. It wasn't long, before they've reached the Jade Palace. Castle didn't recognize it, it was more of a sieged fortress than the luxurious palace he known. The knights and guards were busy, setting the thorns, that could serve against the incoming cavalry, and behind them, he saw several iron giants, also seemed to be working on something. As they approached the command tent, from it came Princess Pina in her battle armor, as well another woman in blue armor, which was seemed to be made not in Falmart. We've been awaiting you, Rory Mercury, bowed Pina to Rory, as well other knights did. Thank you, your majesty, smiled Rory, I've come on request of Centurion Prime, he sended me here to help you defend the Jade Palace. Praise the Emroy for blessings, said Borbos, truly, the gods are on the side of righteous. That is correct, Borbos, smiled Rory, I'm glad, that you've also decided to serve the real heir to the throne and not that impostor Zorzel. I serve only the one, who's been appointed by the real emperor, answered Borbos, to hell with Zorzel and his traitors, who's attacked the emperor and tried to take his life. May their names forever be damned and cursed for all times. And you shall be rewarded by the Emroy for your faithful service, said Rory. Thank you, your holiness, answered Borbos. Gray and Alexander bowed before Pina. My princess, said Gray, your faithful servants have returned. Welcome back, Sir Gray, Sir Alexander, said Pina, I'm sure, you have a lot to tell me, but that'll have to wait. Right now, I need you to quickly take command of our infantrymen and thorns. Go to the nearest tent and get ready yourselves. As you command, princess, answered Gray. Both him and Alexander saluted and left. Your Highness, bowed Marquis Castle, it's good to finally see you again. It's good to see you as well, Marquis, said Pina, though I wish, it would be much better time. Mercifully we've been able to escape from the Tuiles mansion, before it went on fire, said Castle, we were lucky to survive, but Senator Tuile and his wife has sacrificed themselves by saving our lives. I know, said Pina sadly, we've been informed by Sir Prime about the tragedy. However, I believe, that there's someone, who Miss Tuile really be happy to see. She gestured to the tent, and from it, came Koji Sugawara. Sherry gasped, as she saw the man she loved coming out of it. Sugawara, she muttered. Hello, Sherry, smiled Sugawara. Sugawara, muttered again Sherry, as her eyes were now full in tears, Swagawara. She ran to Sugawara, who kneeled down and took her into his arms. She embraced him and wept on his shoulder. My mother, she sobbed, my father, my home, all gone. I have nowhere to go. Please, Sugawara, you're the only hope I have. Please, do not cast me out. You don't need to ask me about anything, answered Sugawara. I will protect you now, as your parents requested, and as I promised, when the time of your age will come, I'll gladly marry you. Thank you, my husband, smiled still tearing Sherry. Sugawara then get up and faces Marquis' castle. It's been a long time, Marquis, he said. Too long, Sugawara, answered Castle. I wish it could have been more happier time, but it seems that the gods have other plans. Now, with my home is in scorch-ears, grasp and my fortunes are forfeit, I'm practically reduced to a mere beggar and the man on the run. I request your nation to grant me political sanctuary in these troubled times. You don't need to asking me, Marquis, said Koji. I've already talked with Ambassadors Russell and Zakharov and Vice Minister Shirayuri, and they've all agreed to grant you and Miss Tuuli a political refuge from the usurpers, who seize the power in Sedera by force. I am also need to inform you, that my government, as well the governments of allied nations has sanctioned the rescue operation to free others, who's been captured by warhawks. Thank you, Sugawara, smiled Castle, those news are indeed the blessings from the gods. Well then, said the armored woman, revealing her face, why won't you gentlemen proceed to Jade Palace? Right now, it's not safe here. Thank you, milady, asked Castle, may I ask, what is your name? I'm General Cilia Stingray Abernathy, answered the woman, commander of the GI. Joe Team, Knight Sabers, currently in charge of the defenses of Jade Palace. A woman general, surprised Castle, Centurion sure has quite strong warriors, if he's allowed a woman to be promoted to general ranks. Suddenly, a messenger appeared. Your Highness, he blurted out, the sweepers are coming. They've got hundreds of men. Get ready, everyone, barked Pina, this is it. Sir Sugawara, you, Miss Tuuli and Marquis Castle better get to the Jade Palace. She's right, Sugawara-san, said Cilia, it's not safe for you out here. No, answered Sugawara, as the representative of allied nations, I must face these people to deliver them the message Vice Minister Shirayuri has entrusted in me. I see, said Cilia, very well, but stay close to my Knight Sabers, where you'll be safe, and don't do anything rash. Don't worry, said Sugawara, I don't. As the Scorch-Ears approached the Jade Palace, they've been greeted by the grim faces of the Rose Knights, Palace Guards and Imperial Guards. They didn't draw their swords yet, but it was obvious that they've just a few moments away from doing it. Then Gimlet appeared. Princess Pina, he spoke, I am Gimlet Jine Lime, chairman of Pretoria Committee and leader of the Scorch-Ears. I'm here on the request of our enlightened leader, Emperor Zorzel El Caesar I. Hearing such boastful demands, many of the Imperial Guards and Palace Guards burst in laughter. Emperor Zorzel, shouted one of them, since when he became one. Yeah, said another, this guy is not yet fit enough to fit a toilet seat. He must have thought really big, when he put a crown on himself in the morning, yelled another, I'll bet, it almost swallowed his head, 'cause it's too small. No way, shouted another, his fat head is so big, the crown is probably too small for it. Gimlet growled, hearing such insults. Then Pina speak to him. You can tell my brother, that I do not recognize his rule, she said, my father has never placed the crown on him, and furthermore, he placed me instead as his successor. That's a lie, shouted Gimlet, the emperor hasn't. Look at this, Gimlet, shot back Pina, showing him her seal ring, do you recognize it? The imperial seal, muttered shocked Gimlet. That's right, said Pina, this seal was been given to me by my father, the Emperor Moldsal Augustus, just before his caravan was been attacked by my brother's conspirators. It also proves to you, that Zorzel does not have any authority in the empire and therefore, his rulership is a farce. And all those, who sided with him, are considered to be traitors of the empire and in cahoots with those, who attempted that cowardly attack on my father. You're lying, shouted Gimlet, Emperor Molt didn't announce. He was going to announce it, after he returned from the ceremony, answered Pina, yet, he didn't, because he was been ambushed and almost got killed. I will not rest, until I'll find the perpetrators, who fired those poisoned arrows at his carriage. Emperor Molt is dead, said Gimlet. He's still alive, answered Pina, the other Worlders healers are helping him to fight the poison as we speak. It also proves that my brother is the main culprit in trying to kill our father. It would be a great shame and dishonor for me and for my knights to serve the man who nearly killed my father, so therefore, I deny his rule, as well any laws he had issued, because they don't have any jurisdictional rights on them. Gimlet, you may leave now. You and your sweepers aren't welcomed here. Hearing this, Gimlet growled. I do not care what you say, princess, he spat, as long as Zorzel is at the throne, he's the emperor, and he's also has the powers over you. You will surrender the Jade Palace to us and the barbarian envoys, as well the political fugitives, who's been hiding there. And just what makes you to think that you've got the rules to dictate your owns, said Cilia, coming in front. I do not speak with the barbarians, you slut, so step aside, sneered Gimlet. Cilia's face has become brimmed with anger. She raised her hand and fired several shots at Gimlet's feet, making him jumping like crazy. Don't you dare to speak to me like that, you scum. She roared, I am General Cilia Stingray Abernathy, commander of the G.I. Joe team, Knight Sabers, and the chief of the Jade Palace Embassy defenses. So if there is anyone you should be talking to, it should be me. But since you've been so rude with me, I am going to ask you to leave these grounds right now. You and your men are violating the sovereign territory of the Allied nations, and I have an obligation to protect both it and its occupants from any and all threats. Internal or otherwise. And furthermore, if you ever call me a slut, I'll have your own guts feeded to you, wolf head. Gimlet's anger has deepened. How dare this savage talk to him in such a manner? Listen, barbarian, I only answer to Emperor Caesar and not savages like yourself. I am giving you one final chance to surrender peacefully. What is your answer? Drop dead, answered Pris. Go to hell, yelled Lina. You suck, shouted Nene. Looks, the other worlders have spoken, giggled Rory, also appearing beside Cilia. Emroy's oracle, gasped Gimlet. That's right, said Rory, as an apostle of Emroy, I can go where I want. But this time I'm here on the request of my partner, General Centurion Prime. He sended me here to help Princess Pina to defend the palace from bullies, like you. You and your ilk disgust me and my lord. The appearance of Rory has frightened the sweepers. Last thing they've expecting is for Emroy's apostle to appear at the Jade Palace. It would seem that the gods do not recognize your so-called emperor, said Borbos. In fact, they've never been on his side right from the start. Our emperor has decided to surrender the empire, because he knew that the gods were angry at him for violating the sacred Alnus ground, and because of that, our empire has suffered greatly. Now your impostor of an emperor wants to restart the war, just for his own ego. Such ways are disgusting and has no honor. We will gladly join Princess Pina and her knights, as well the other worlders, because they've been supported by the gods, who blessed them to punish your prince, as well those blasphemers, who dared to commit sins against the gods. Praise to the Emroy and the gods of Falmart for blessing Princess Pina to save the empire, shouted one of the guards, to Hardy's hell with Prince Zorzel the usurper and those who attempted to assassinate Emperor Moltzal Augustus. May their names be forever damned. Long live Princess Pina, the true crowned princess of the empire. Long live Princess Pina, shouted other knights. Gimlet's face was now red with rage, as he hears the shouts of others. You're all insane, he screams. Our Emperor Zorzel is offering you the chances to serve him and become part of his court, so that you may help the empire to achieve more greater glory. All that you need to do is to hand over those barbarian envoys. I think I can have something to say about that, said Koji, coming with Sherry. Well, if it isn't the envoy, smiled Gimlet, what brings you here? I've come to deliver you message from my government, answered Koji. The allied nations are fully aware of everything that's been going on in Sidera, and they do not accept Prince Zorzel's claim to the throne. In fact, the real heir to the throne is Princess Pina, who's been appointed by Emperor Moltzal Augustus on the day when he signed the Declaration of Unconditional Surrender. Therefore, your prince do not have any rights to claim himself as the new emperor. You lie, filthy barbarian, shouted Gimlet. I have one more thing to tell you, said Koji. My government is already aware of your attempt to seize the embassy. Such attempts are considered to be the violations of the treaty and the terms of unconditional surrender. Therefore, the Allied nations' forces has already been ordered to send their best units to Sidera in order to rescue the embassy and all those who's been captured by Zorzel's regime as political prisoners. After that, the Allied nations' forces are fully authorized to take down Prince Zorzel's regime by all means necessary. Ha! Snorted Gimlet, who cares? It'll take days for your forces to come here from Alnus, and by that time, you'll be all prisoners, begging our emperor to spare your miserable lives. Who said that they'll come by land? Smiled Koji. What? Gasped Gimlet. You've seen our giant birds of steel, didn't you? Smiled Koji. Do you really think that they're not been able to transfer our men from Alnus? It's just a few hours of flying from there. You've got until next night, before our forces will arrive. I suggest your emperor better get himself a new pair of running shoes, cause he'll needed them to run away as fast as he can from our wrath. Wait, said Gimlet, what about those fugitives? Give them to us, and nothing will happen to you. Sorry, but you're in no position to ask any demands, answered Sugawara. You see, these here are political refugees we've been authorized by our government to provide sanctuary. They're under our protection, and you do not have any rights to take them from me, especially Sherry Tooley. What do you mean? Asked confused Gimlet. She's just a little girl. She's also happened to be my wife, answered Koji. What? Gasped Gimlet again. I've been talking with her parents, and we've all agreed that once she's reaches the proper age, she'll marry me, explained Sugawara. Until then, she'll live under my protection. Sugawara, muttered Happy Sherry. Koji then took her in his arms. It is a common sense for any being to protect their loved ones, he said, then pulled out the SIG P226 pistol. I've got 15 shots in this gun. I will fire the last to my head, the pre-last into Sherry, and the rest into anyone who even dares to come closer to her. So I suggest that you should follow our chief of security advice and leave. You're not welcomed here. He then turned to Castle. Let's go, he said, and went to Jade Palace with Sherry's palm in his hand. Marquise joined them, as they walked to the palace, with knight sabers covering their backs. Gimlet has finally snapped. His mission was practically a failure. And if Praetor Rufulus, Lufulus's brother, hears about this, he'll have him executed. Damn it, he shouted, do you realize what you've done? I do not care who you think you are, you're surrendering to Pretoria immediately. White Rose Knights, assemble, shouted Beefeater. Rose Order of the Knights, stand by for battle, shouted Pina. Red Rose Knights, stand with me. Yellow Rose Knights, assemble, yelled Bozes. Blue Rose Knights, protect the command tent, shouted Champagne. Black Rose Knights, stand ready, barked Gray. 3rd and 4th Centuria, in formation, shouted Borbos. As the knights and the guards got ready for the battle, Gimlet was getting more and more hysterical. How dare you turn on the Emperor Zorzel, he shouted, you'll put down those weapons and surrender. Oh, shut up, spat Beefeater, don't you ever getting tired of repeating that bullshit all over again? We do not serve your emperor, so go find someplace else. Yeah, shouted one of the Imperial Guards, like we give a shit about your emperor. How about if you go and clean his toilet with that broom of yours? I'll hope the wolves eat your hide for joining that jerk, shouted another. Ha, they've already eaten his pride, laughed another. This palace is a home to my knights and the diplomatic envoys, who came here to seek peace with the empire, shouted Pina. I shall protect them in my home with my life. We're with you, your highness, shouted Bozes, for the empire and our princess. For the empire and Princess Pina, shouted other knights and guards. That's it, shouted Gimlet, show them a side and seize Pina, those envoys and the fugitives. Attack. Swords, cried Beefeater, as the knights unsheathed their swords, for our princess. Charge. Both sides rushes at each other, with Pina and Rory leading their charge. Swords were clashing with each other, spears piercing the enemy's flesh. Beefeater fought hard against the sweepers, slashing them with her sword. They're just girls and old men, shouted Gimlet, kill them, they're no match for us. These old men still have enough teeth to bite, shot back Gray, ready your spears. Now, stab. The line of spearmen thrusted their spears, piercing the hearts of the Scorchiers. No, shouted Gimlet, do not fall back. Remember, that those, who dares to retreat, will be considered as failures and executed. "Push forward, my knights," shouted Pina, "for the Empire." "For the Empire," repeated other knights and guards, pushing through enemy ranks. Gimlet swore. Things had gotten terribly out of hand and Prince Zorzel was definitely not going to be pleased. Not only had Gimlet's men botched the apprehension of Senator Castle, but Castle was now in the hands of the other worlders. And then there was Pina and her Rose Order. It should not have even been an issue. An honor guard of girls and old men that should have been swept aside in short order, leaving it a simple matter to storm the Jade Palace and take the senator into custody after all. But his men had been driven back in disarray with heavy casualties. They had been humiliated. No, he had been humiliated. And he wasn't looking forward to reporting his failure to Prince Zorzel. But he needed more men and obtaining those men meant doing just that. "Bring me my horse," Gimlet ordered. "Form a perimeter and do not let the criminals leave." And as they have taken arms against the orders of Emperor Zorzel, the Knights of the Rose Order are also to be considered criminals. Allow no rider in or out. As he righted out, the knights were now been able to breathe easily. Pina was now assessing the situation. Bozes has been returning from an inspection of the companies of the Blue Rose and the Pink Rose. The Blue Roses were all but ready and the Pink Roses were off to a promising start. And Pina was now painfully aware of how much these new roses were needed, as she surveyed the wounded knights been taken to Jade Palace. Thankfully, the Scorchiers were not as well equipped or armored as the Roses, or trained. It was also a blessing from the gods that the Rangers and the Marines had offered up the services of their corpsmen to treat their wounded. Actually, the Marines had extended the offer to both sides but perhaps expected. The Scorchiers flatly refused to allow their men to be treated by the other worlders. The Roses Knights were more grateful. But the cost was high. Several roses would need to be airlifted to the healers at Alnus. And not only that, there was also those who died during the battle. Linus County Gratius had been one of the Order's longest-serving Thorns. He had once been an instructor in the short sword. Now he was dead, not by any foreign enemy but by the hands of fellow Saturans. Beefeater, after closing the eyes of her fallen comrade, was in tears as she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Pris. "Is he was your friend?" asked the Knight Saber. "Yes," said Beefeater, getting up, "he was our instructor, who came with Gray and Alexander. Now, he's gone." "Do not grieve yourself, Beefeater," said Rory, coming to them, "your friend shall be rested well in the realm of Emroy." "Thank you, your holiness," answered Beefeater, bowing to Rory, "but still, it does not relieve the pain." "I know what you mean," replied Pris. "Beefeater," said Pina, coming to them, "tell the White Roses that they should settle down the tents. We're now moving to the other worlders' position near Jade Palace, where they'll be easy to fight Zorzel's forces." "Yes, my princess," answered Beefeater, "do you think that they'll be back?" "They will," nodded Pina, "and they'll also bring the troops as well. There are 4 corps stationed nearby Sedera, and that's more than 10,000 soldiers, all good trained. So you can bet that this is just a beginning." "Understood, my princess," saluted Beefeater. As the knights and guards gathered their tents and proceeded to Jade Palace, they were shocked to see the other worlders' new positions. Hesco-Gabian walls, filled with the sands and stones, were now been settled in 3 defense lines, surrounding the palace. Each of these lines were now capable of withstand quite a punishment, including shots from ballistas. There was numerous firing positions, on every one of them were builded wooden shields to shield them from enemy arrows. Aside from standard rifles, the Marines, Rangers and G.I. Joes were now positioned heavy machine guns, including Browning M2HB and Cord, as well Russian KPVA guns, USMK. 47 grenade launchers, Cornet ATGM missiles, Stinger and IGLA-1 manpads and USM 226 60mm mortars. Aside from already known mobile suits, like Javelins, Helldivers and others, G.I. Joes has brought other mobile suits, like the Super Defender, an AA defense mech, equipped with 2 Vulcan cannons and 20 missiles. Second was the Phalanx, the SAM mobile suit, designed to fight the aerial threats with 2 massive missile launchers. And finally, the Tomahawk, a literal walking tank mobile suit, equipped with the missiles, machine guns, flamethrowers, lasers and beam guns. These massive mobile suits stood at the positions in the 3rd line, providing cover fire. The Jade Palace was also been changed. Its windows were been covered by special plastic shields, which protected them from explosions, while the balconies were been fortified with sandbags and machine guns. Several Russian 2B9 automatic mortars were placed on them, while on the roof, there were numerous snipers, armed with Barrett heavy sniper guns. By the gods, gasped Beefeater, looking at the makeshift fortress of the other worlders, how did you able to build this so fast? You think, that's great, snorted Pris, wait till you see, what our men can really do. Those wolfheads and that idiot prince will rue the day they'll ever mess with G.I. Joes. Come on, it's time for you guys to also take your positions. Our first priority is to protect our people in and around Sidera, gentlemen, said Hazama, regarding his senior officers calmly. We also need to recall our recon patrols and detachments. I don't want our people caught out and cut up in penny packets. We will, of course, honor any defensive arrangements we have made with the local populations, but get those patrols in. He jabbed a finger down on the map where the Jade Palace was. The most immediate concern is to be ready to relieve the Jade Palace. Colonel Kengan, I want your 4th Combat Team ready to go on short notice to relieve them. Relieve or evacuate? Colonel Emerson asked as he leaned forward. Hazama frowned. He understood what Emerson meant. Retreating from the Jade Palace would be a sting in the pride, but strategically the site was worthless. Evacuation, Colonel. Getting our people out takes priority over holding ground of no real value. Agreed, Emerson nodded. It went against the grain for the Marines to concede any ground, but in this case, it was the right play. General Takata, Hazama addressed the commander of the 1st Airborne Brigade. Sir. Takata was a short, squat man who regretted not being able to partake in the Battle of Ginza. With his brigade having only relatively recently arrived in country, his men had not yet seen any significant combat. A situation Takata was anxious to correct. He leaned forward in anticipation. I want your airborne troops and Colonel Lowe's to stand by to launch Operation Peace Dove. We may have to move quickly to extract Allied personnel and friendlies. Colonel Lowe. Sir. You'll need to neutralize the Sadaran air defense patrols. Yes sir. Lowe acknowledged. He rather expected that as the only Allied fighting unit with its own dragon, Hazama figured that Team Bastone might have special insight on how to most effectively deal with the Sadaran's own dragon patrols over the capital. Sergeant Owens's peculiar condition was an open secret in the Janus Theater. The speculation as to just what the Golden One could do ran wild, as did the extent of the betting pools. Apparently, the I-beam lasers hadn't turned up yet, but as far as Lowe was concerned, that was all right. What the young sergeant had already accomplished was remarkable enough. Lowe's men had come to appreciate the abilities of an aircraft that could be scrambled in minutes and which maintained controlled flight with absolute silence, and the prospect of a couple of dragons getting in among a para-drop was, in Lowe's considered opinion, not something simply dismissed. In the meantime, Hazama now turned his attention to the commanders of his medical units. Colonel Potter, you will move your hospital to Italica. Be as quick as you can, Colonel. Understood, Potter nodded. They knew it had been coming and now the boot was falling. Potter didn't have to have any exceptional insight to know that Hazama was positioning his pieces to control the center of the board. He also knew he and his people were liable to be seeing far too much business very soon. I see, said Centurion, so you're suggesting that we should evacuate the Jade Palace, rather than holding it. Yes, Commander, answered Hazama on videophone. Strategically, that place has no value for us, plus, there's also a matter of endangering the VIPs that right now been sieged in it. On top of that, there's about 4 army corps nearby Sidera, which means Zorzel can easily reinforce his guerrillas to attack the palace and crush the resistance. We will of course provide the aerial cover with our Spectres and Calamities, but that's all we can do for them, considering that Zorzel's forces has also numerous Wyvern patrols in the air. So therefore, it's only a matter of time before the resistance of Jade Palace will crack. What about using the Jade Palace as a decoy? Asked Centurion. Could we be able to use the palace to lure Zorzel's forces, so that when we launch the rescue operation, our forces will encounter much less resistance from the enemy? Negative on that one, sir, said General Keating. Zorzel's got himself 4 corps stationed there, while our men at Jade Palace has got only 4,600. The odds are not in their favor, sir. Zorzel can easily deploy 2 of his corps to crush the defenders of the Jade Palace, while other 2 remains in reserve. In other words, our decoy will only last for the next 24 hours, then that's it, the show is over. I see your point, General Keating, said Centurion. Very well, I shall relay your suggestions to Princess Pina and General Stingray Abernathy. Let's just only hope they'll hold until night time, when it will be safe to evacuate them. Chapter 39, Operation Peace Dove. In the Imperial Palace, Zorzel was been extremely angry at Gimlet's failure. How could you allowed yourself been bested by the old men and some women? He berated Gimlet in front of them. They're nothing more than a bunch of old war geezers and amateurs. You're supposed to be nobles, who's been trained to fight with a sword. And yet, they've practically humiliated you. I'm greatly disappointed of you, Gimlet. My apologies, sire, bowed Gimlet, but the trouble is, these old men are veterans, who's been fought in the Imperial Army for years, while our Scorchiers are just a group of young men with only few who's got any experience. Plus, there was also Rory Mercury, who's with them. What? Gasped Zorzel. Rory Mercury. Here. But she was supposed to be with that other worlder leader Centurion Prime. If I may suggest, my Emperor, said Vendetta, if Rory Mercury is here, so is Centurion Prime. Yes, and that American Eric is also here, grinned Zorzel. They're likely hiding in Akusho. This is perfect. We just need to swat 2 flies at the same time. But what about your sister, sire? Asked Gimlet. If she and her knights will continue to hold the Jade Palace, we could have a thorn in our side, that will continue to grow bigger when other rebels join her. Yes, Pina is a thorn in our side, snorted Zorzel. Guess we'll have to deal with her first. Have the First Corps move into Sidera and put under Pretoria's command. Its main task is to crush Pina's rebellion and capture her and the barbarians inside the palace. As you command, my Emperor, bowed Lucullus. Gimlet, said Zorzel, this is your last chance. Prove to me that you're competent enough to lead the Scorchiers, or I'll be forced to have you executed for failure. You shall have my word, sire, bowed Gimlet. I will destroy Pina's rebellion or die trying. See that you will, snorted Zorzel, otherwise, don't bother to come back. Now go. Yes, my Emperor, said Gimlet, saluted and leaves. Now, about the Akusho, said Zorzel, are there any ideas, how we can flush the other worlders from there? If I may have a suggestion, sire, said Rufulus, we could send our agents there to learn where the other worlders are hiding, then we can send our forces there to capture them, as well Centurion Prime. But that takes too long, replied Lucullus. There are too many blocks in Akusho for our men to find the other worlders. It'll take days for us to find their hideout. Plus, our agents would be easily detected by the beastman population and other humans, who's in league with the other worlders. Then perhaps, we can contact the crime bosses of the Akusho, said Cassiopeia. I know a few of them, who's been dealing with the Hario clan prior to its destruction. I can hire a few men to send to them with promises of more gold for their families. That might be able to convince them to work for us. Thought Zorzel, sounds quite promising. Very well, we shall try both ideas. Rufulus, you'll send your men to Akusho and try to find the other worlders' hideout. Meanwhile, Cassiopeia will work on her own idea to enlist the crime lords of Akusho to aid the Empire. But if they refuse to help us, we will send our 3rd and 4th Corps there to burn the Akusho to the ground, as an example for those who dares to defy the rule of Emperor Zorzel El Caesar. In the Jade Palace, Pina and Cilia listened to Centurion Prime's orders by videophone. I see, said Pina, you want us to hold on until dark, so you can evacuate the embassy and us as well. That's correct, Your Highness, said Centurion. I understand, it's not for your interest to abandon your home and leave, but you must understand that right now, we're in no position to immediately take Sidera. With your fathers signing the unconditional surrender, the war is technically over. Therefore, the ANF main goal is complete, the enemy they've fought against with is defeated. Unfortunately, your brother's coup leads us to the fact that there's now a civil war is in sight. In order to help the people of Sidera, we need approval of the new Sateran government. Since technically Zorzel is not legitimate heir to the throne, and therefore, his claim to be emperor is nothing more than a farce, that leaves you, Pina, as the only legitimate ruler of the empire. So therefore, it'll be up to you to form the new legitimate government out of the pro-peace senators and make the agreement with the allied nations about suppressing Zorzel's usurpatory, thus allowing your government to form their own army, so that together they've been able to deal with Zorzel's insurgents. I understand, Sir Prime, said Pina. I've already sended my brother Prince Diabo on the mission to Italica, Alnis and Kingdom of Eld to get the diplomatic help I need in order to fight Zorzel. He's also been appointed as my prime minister and the head of the new government. Of course, for now it's nothing more than paper government. We need to rescue all those senators that been held by Zorzel's forces in Basan prison, so that we can form the new government. Leave that to me, Your Highness, said Centurion. My forces in Akusho are already preparing to liberate the doves by next night. Once our forces in the morning will arrive, we'll take those senators back to Italica, where I'm sure your brother will be waiting to have them form the new government. Then, Sir Prime, may I have a request, said Pina. I would like to participate with my knights in liberation of the doves. What do you mean, Your Highness? Asked Centurion. Your commanders are planning to liberate the doves by using the air machines, answered Pina. I want to ride with them, so I can help your forces to save the citizens of my empire. It is my duty as the crown princess to help my people, and I'm not leaving them in danger. Centurion thought about this for a moment. Understood, he said. I'll talk with General Hazama about your proposal, Your Highness. In the meantime, you and the rest of your knights must hold on until dark, so that our helicopters can rescue you. That is all then, good luck. The videophone then turned black, and the two women looked at each other. Sounds like you're putting yourself in quite a risk, Your Highness, said Cilia. I don't have any other choice, Lady Stingray Abernathy, replied Pina. If Sir Prime's forces are gonna liberate my people, how can I look into their eyes, if I'll be forced to run away to Italica? What would they say about me? For me, it's a matter of honor, Lady Stingray Abernathy, and my own people. I understand you, Your Highness, said Cilia, but for now, we must survive your brother's wrath. He's gonna send his armies on us real soon. Suddenly, Hamilton and Nene burst in. Commander, shouted Nene, Zorzel's forces are coming. Your Highness, shouted Hamilton, it's Gimlet. He's back, and this time, they've got the first corp with them. Talk about speak of the devil, spat Cilia. Tell our forces to be on standby. We'll be right on our command post. Yes, Commander, answered Nene and leaves with Hamilton. Let's go, Your Highness, said Cilia. Yes, Lady Stingray Abernathy, answered Pina. Both women put on their helmets and hurried outside. Upon exiting the palace, Pina and Cilia saw at least 100 sweepers, wearing wolf hides as armor. They too had their swords drawn and stood in front of a sizable force of imperial soldiers who also had their weapons drawn. But what really caught the G.I. Joe commander's attention, were the presence of several catapults the Imperials had brought with them. Princess Pina, said Gimlet, I've come from my Emperor Zorzel El Caesar with the request. He's willing to grant you mercy and forgive your rebellion, if you finally submit yourself to his demands and surrender your order and the barbarians inside. Gimlet, you've got yourself brains of a jackass, yelled Pina. I've told you already, that I do not accept my brother as the so-called Emperor of Sidera. In fact, he's mad if he's really think he can defeat the other worlders. So I'm warning you, if you even dare to step even closer to our Jade Palace, we'll have your head on the stake delivered back to Zorzel. This is your last warning, Gimlet, said Cilia. Leave the grounds of Jade Palace, or we'll be forced to use extreme prejudice in order to put you back to your proper place. I will never follow the orders of the lowly barbarians, you slut, boasted Gimlet. Fine, you're asked for it, barked Cilia, who's finally had enough of Gimlet arrogance. All units, show this creep what we think of him and his ravings. What does this woman thinks? Said Gimlet arrogantly, she can't make me s. Suddenly, he was interrupted, as he saw two of the iron giants lifting their arms and unleashing the white beams from their arms. Those beams flied and hit the catapults, blowing them and the trolls nearby to pieces. Then, other giants unleashed their shoulder-mounted weapons, blowing the orcs and the cavalry to bits. It was now utter pandemonium, as Gimlet's force began to panic and flee the palace grounds. Stand your ground, the Pretoria chairman barked out to the fleeing imperial soldiers. Only the other, Scorchiers, remained at his side, unbiased by the carnage taking place before them. By order of Emperor Zorzal El Caesar, I demand that yo. Gimlet never got a chance to finish his sentence, as a hail automatic gunfire silenced him and his men once and for all. The remaining sweepers, who were lucky enough to survive the gunfire, fled alongside the fleeing Imperial soldiers, dropping their swords as they fled. "That's it, run, you little faggots," yelled the U.S. Marine, firing his rifle. "Tell your Caesar that if he wants some new Gauls to conquer, the Asterix and Obelix are still here," yelled another. "Who's afraid of big bad wolves?" yelled the U.S. Army Ranger, "We don't." While the rest of the knights and guards were looking at the other worlders with awe. "By the gods," said one of the guards, "they've got real powerful magic." "I really wish we could have those weapons," said Beefeater, "that way, we wouldn't be so helpless against Zorzal's goons." "Looks like we sended them packing," said Cilia. "Yes, but they'll be back," answered Pina, "we've only bought a few hours before they'll launch a new attack." "Don't worry," said Cilia, "we've got more tricks up our sleeves." At one of the houses nearby the Jade Palace, a group of Filipino rangers were watching the events. "Heads up," said one of them, "we've got a carriage coming from the Imperial Palace towards the sweepers. Looks like someone's important coming to them." "Should we take him out?" asked another ranger. "Negative, we have our orders," answered the commander. "Contact Alice Springs and inform them of what's going on." "Roger that," said the radio operator. "Outpost Charlie to Alice Springs." "Come in, Alice Springs." "You cowards," blasted his men, the Scorchiers. "Commander, how dare you flee the battlefield?" Suddenly, he saw Rufulus. "Praetor Rufulus," he was surprised, "what are you?" Then, his chest got pierced with the spear, and he fell on the ground dead. "He has failed," yelled Rufulus. "Failure is not allowed in Pretoria. All those who failed the emperor shall be punished. Take them, men." A few minutes later, several Scorchiers were beaten to death by others, despite their begging to stop. "You did the right thing, Rufulus," said Vendetta, coming from behind him, "but now, it's up to you to make sure that the Jade Palace will be taken as fast as possible." "Yes, Lady Cassiopeia," bowed Rufulus. "Good," said Vendetta, then turning to others, "Now then, why are you losing to old men and some women? Is it because you're incompetent?" "It's because those blasted other worlders have joined them," said one of the sweepers. "They've brought their magic and iron giants, that rips our catapults and men into shreds," said another. "They've even managed to build walls around the palace and have them defended with the started the third." "No more excuses," Vendetta stopped them. "If you don't do this job perfectly, His Majesty will be greatly displeased. If you need more soldiers, then take them and defeat the other worlders and those old men and girls in fancy armor, but do not screw it up again. Otherwise, His Majesty will be forced to do something about you." "Why yes, Lady Cassiopeia," muttered one of the Scorchiers, looking terrified. "Good," said Vendetta, then walked to her carriage. "Now, do your duty. His Majesty is waiting for good news, so do not disappoint him." As she was righted away, her carriage was watched from the ranger's watching post. "Looks like the sweepers are getting some new orders," said one of them. "You think they'll make another attack on the palace soon?" said another. "Possibly," said the commander. "After all, the odds are in their favor." "I wonder, who is that vulpine lady in the carriage?" wondered another ranger. "You think she's important to someone?" "Don't know," answered the commander, "and don't care. Right now, we've got our orders. Relay the events to Bletchley Park." "Roger that." At the Bessera's former mansion, Centurion, Scott, Fury, Atami, Eric and several others were working on plans of the operation, Peace Dove. "Why aren't we helping them?" asked Tuca, looking at the men standing near the table with a map. "Because Commander said that we need to wait for our turn after the operation," answered Lele. "What does he means?" asked Tuca. "Hey, leave the men to do their job," said Yao. "As far as I understand Centurion, he's got something important for us." "But he did send out Rory on the field," said Tuca. "Because she's a demi-goddess and apostle of war," answered Lele. "Centurion thought that it would be a waste of efforts keeping her here with us. That's why she's helping the knights and Gii Joe to defend the Jade Palace." Meanwhile, Centurion went on the phone and called Nyutabaru at Playful Elf. "Understood," Shogun, General, answered Nayutabaru, I shall talk with Misery about this. Yes, we shall get enough carriages for the evacuation. Yes, sir. Goodbye. He then hanged his phone. Back at the Bessera mansion, Centurion has gathered the men. According to our information, he said, pointing at the plasma screen, the doves are held here, in Basan prison. Looks like more of a fortress than a prison to me, sir, replied Eric. It is, answered Centurion, according to the history records, the Basan was once built as the defense post to defend Sedera's western gate. It was housed by at least a battalion garrison. But as the time progressed, the once military fortress was been turned into prison for political criminals. Sounds like a variant of Paris Bastille, sir, said Min. Exactly, that's what it is, Liu, said Centurion, and it's gonna be our job to capture it and free all the doves in it. Which is why our part of the operation, Peace Dove, will be dubbed as Bastille. Hearing this, several of ghosts have begun to whistle, La Marseillaise. Now then, said Centurion, the attack on Bastille will be carried out by my team, the Shadow Warriors, Ghosts Team, Sigma, and 3rd Recon Team. Hunter Team and the Japanese SFG Saber Team will capture the Western Gate. Your job is also to provide the pinpointing to our air units to destroy the enemy installations outside the Sateran walls, namely, the Dragoon bases and camps of 3rd and 4th Imperial Army Corps. The evacuation area will be secured by paratroopers from Fort Ginza, who will also carry out the diversionary part in order to keep the rest of Zorzel's forces busy, while the doves were been taken to the evacuation point by carriages, then airlifted to Italica by helicopters. After that, 3rd Recon Team will be relocated back to Italica and then back to Fort Ginza for redeployment. The only ones who remain in Sedera will be Ghosts and Special Forces teams, who will carry out one more mission, before evacuating both Bletchley Park and Alice Springs. I should also inform you, that according to the information we've received from Sam Fisher, Zorzel is planning to make a move against Akusho. Right now, he's got his hands full with the Jade Palace, but once the palace will be evacuated, and our forces will carry out the rescue operation, he'll throw everything he's got to Akusho in order to punish its residents for helping us. So therefore, once the operation is complete, the teams will move to the reserve base in upper levels codenamed Rose Garden. Details of the locations of this base are top secret. The commanders of Special Forces teams will receive it before the start of the operation. I should also remind you, that once you've learned the location of Rose Garden, you should destroy the data in order to prevent the enemy from learning it. Safety, as always, is our top priority. Once we completed our final mission, the Rose Garden will be evacuated, and all teams will be extracted back to Ginza for further deployment. Here will remains only our lookouts, who will inform us about any further enemy moves. Is that understood? Yes, sir, answered the rest of the men. Good, said Centurion. Now then, about our special guests. Before the start of the operation, they shall be moved to Rose Garden by our cover team, who will secure the reserve base and make sure that all the special forces who will participate in this last operation will safely reach the reserve base without tracking our enemy's attention. That's about it, gentlemen. Now, let's get to work. We've got a lot of things to get ready before the night. At Alnus base, there was numerous activities. Several Su-30 returned from recon flight. Their camera tapes were quickly dismounted and taken towards HQ. According to the aerial photos, said Colonel Respati, the enemy is throwing another battalion at the Jade Palace. While the Knights and General Stingray Abernathy's men are holding their ground, the enemy has continued to increase the pressure on them. What's the state on our combat units? Asked Hazama. General Prime's men are on standby, answered Keating. They've been working on last details of the operation, Bastille. The Italica 401's battalion and the mountain troops are on the standby, said Colonel Emerson. They're ready to proceed with the suppression of the enemy outposts on Duma Mountains. The Special Pathfinder unit is also on standby, said Colonel Lowe. They'll pinpoint the location of Fob Fuji. Task Force Bastone is on the standby, said Colonel Kengan. We're ready to proceed, sir. Air Force is on standby, said Colonel Respati, ready for the night combat mission. We've also sended the Snake Eater to help General Stingray Abernathy's men at Jade Palace. Excellent, said Hazama, I want all our troops to be ready to move out by exactly 1 a.m. Remember, men, the lives of those people, that been held there, are depending on us, so no screw-ups, this one's for our country's honor. Back at the Sidera, the whole field of Jade Palace was now filled with the dead legionaries. Unknown to the Imperials, they've been watched by a quadrocopter drone. Damn, it's like a slaughterhouse down there, said the Philippines Rangers commander. Good thing that General Stingray Abernathy is giving those knights some backup. Bad news, sir, said one of the watchmen, they're about to start another assault. Here we go again, sighed the commander. Okay, guys, let's get out of here, this place has already been overused for hours. Time to relocate. And get that drone out of here as well, before those wolfheads saw it. Yes, sir. As the group leaves, in the field Rufulus and his brother were commanding the assault. Praetors, spoke the commander of 1st Corp Battalion, why are you insisting of attacking head-on at the palace? It's easy to outflank and hit them from sides. Listen here, Commander, said Rufulus, our job is to observe the operation by the orders of His Majesty Emperor Zorzel I. Your job is to obey us, not to question our orders. Our orders is to smash the resistance of barbarians and the rebels, so that we can achieve the victory we need. Now, go and die for the Empire. The battalion commander sighs. Yes, praetors, he said somberly, as you wish. Forward. Forward, shouted the sweepers, no mercy for those who show cowardice. Destroy the barbarians and the rebels. The soldiers advanced towards the positions, but their way was been hampered by the ANF's artillery from the mortars. The grenade launchers fired their deadly ammo, ripping apart the human flesh and smashing the shields to pieces, while the heavy machine guns tore them apart. Then the riflemen also opened their fire, killing the soldiers of the 1st Corps. Wow, said one of the palace guards, looking at the way the ANF soldiers using their weapons with deadly accuracy, look at them go. They're dropping those guys like flies. Don't you stand there gawking, shot back Borbos, get ready. Here they come. Hey, are those guys from the 1st Corps? Asked one of the guards. Yeah, growled in disgust Borbos, our prized Empire unit has been reduced to nothing more than punitive squad. So much for our Empire's glory. Damn those sweepers. Well, we can't do much in this horse shit story but to fight. Ready your crossbows. As the 1st Corp Battalion approached the positions, the guards begin fire their crossbow arrows with deadly accuracy. Tetsudo formation, yelled the commander, and the soldiers gathered with their shields, but then a grenade from Ranger's M203 launcher hit them and exploded, scattering the bodies of the soldiers on the ground. Several of them fell on the ground, screaming in pain, while others run back, only to be killed by sweepers. No running, shouted the sweeper, kill the rebels. Ah, shut up, yelled the battalion commander, killing the sweeper with his sword. Damn it, he shouted, I'll rather be killed by our comrades than by those sweepers. Follow me, Emroy's with us. As they run towards the positions, suddenly Rory Mercury appeared. Did someone called Emroy's name? She shouted with mad glee in her eyes, I'll gladly send you to him. It's Rory the Reaper, yelled one of the soldiers. I don't give a shit, yelled the commander, forward. As he and his men attacked, Rory then runned at them laughing like crazy, then she started to slice them with her halberd. From the second side, a group of heavy cavalry tried to attack, but then the super defender turned to them and fired his cannons, completely shredding the cavalry to pieces. Soon, the surviving legionaries run back, but this time they've attacked the sweepers. You fools, shouted the sweeper, your enemy is over the. Damn you, shouted the soldiers, piercing the sweeper with their spears. Soon, the assault was broken, and the legionaries fall back. Back at the command post, Pina looked at the damage. We have neither the numbers, the equipment, or the supplies to hold the Jade Palace from any serious assault, she said to Cilia, our forces are practically pushed to the limits, and our soldiers are starting to show the signs of fatigue. Even our food reserves are low. I'm afraid, we cannot withstand another assault, Lady Stingray Abernathy. We're not here to reenact Battle of the Alamo, answered Cilia, right now, our job is to hold them, until the night falls. After that, we're getting out of here. Understood, said Pina, I'll make an arrangements, that our horses will be brought to the reserve barracks nearby the palace, they'll be safe there, until we return. Good idea, replied Cilia, I'll call Alnus base to have our choppers ready. Tell your knights to make sure that all wounded should be brought to the landing site, they'll be evacuated first, after the ambassadors. Yes, Lady Stingray Abernathy, said Pina, then turned to Hamilton, have Boses, Sir Grey and Beefeater come to me at once. Yes, ma'am. By night time, the helicopters and Ospreys have arrived at the site behind the Jade Palace. The ambassadors, Vice Minister Shirayuri and Sherry with the rest of the embassy staff were seated on first, which immediately took off to Italica. Following that, all heavy wounded knights and guards were loaded onto one of the CV-22 Osprey, which took them to Alnus. The lightly wounded were loaded onto Chinook, which took them to Italica. The mobile suits were putted onto Russian Mi-26s, which took them away, leaving the rest of the knights, guards, rangers, marines and GI Joes to enter the remaining Chinooks and Super Stallions, which took off to Italica. Meanwhile, Rufulus and Lufulus has launched the next attack on the Jade Palace, this time however been supported by ballistas with Greek fire, however, to their surprise, there was no one to resist their attack. Both praetors believed that the other worlders has used some kind of a magic to make them disappear. Of course, they've heard the sounds of helicopters, but they've believed that the other worlders were performing some kind of a ritual that makes them invincible. Thus they've reported that the Jade Palace was been taken, but Princess Pina and her knights with the barbarians has escaped by using some kind of a magic. Zorzel was displeased to hear such a report, but nevertheless, he believed that with the capture of the Jade Palace all he has to do is to destroy the other worlders in Akusho, then march towards Italica and crush the rebellious countess, after that, march towards the Alnus and then. But little did he know, is that his dreams were about to meet the harsh reality. Near the Duma Mountains the Allied nations' forces has set up the FOB base Kisaradu. It was actually a field helicopter base, as well special forces base. Several Cobra, Apache, A-1 Huey, UH-60 Black Hawk and Super Stallion helicopters were been stationed, ready for the attack. At the APC, which served as the command unit, several officers were gathered. Cargo helicopters are been fueled, said one of them. Orders are confirmed, said another, begin the suppression of the enemy outposts at the mountains near the highway. Proceed, ordered the commander. Under the command, the helicopters fired up their engines and took off. Several Hueys and Black Hawks were towing special containers by using their hooks. While at the outpost, a lone Imperial officer came out. Where are the goblins? He asked, or they fell asleep. Suddenly, a man sneaked behind him and grabbed him, putting a knife to his neck. Shish, he whispered, not a sound. As the other soldiers swept the tent, several silent shots were heard, but that's all. Enemy outpost secured, said Hibbard. Targeting the Wyvern base, said Booth, pointing his laser targeting device. At the old castle, which was been used by Wyvern dragoons, the captain was drinking wine. How are we gonna stop those other worlders? He said to himself, their steel birds flied faster, before we can lit the signals, and our Wyverns are too slow. Wait, he suddenly stopped, seeing at what appeared to be a falling star, what's that? But that's all he could say, as the Hellfire missile from AH-64D Apache hit the castle, blowing it to bits. Moments later, another missile hit the castle, blowing all the Wyverns into nothing. This is Apache leader, said the AH-64D pilot, objective Lone Mountain is destroyed. This is Outlaw leader, said the pilot of AH-1Z Venom, objective Omaha has been destroyed. The highway is wide open, repeat, the highway is wide open, over. Soon, nearby the captured outposts, flied several UH-60 and UH-1 helicopters, carrying their cargo. This is Alpha-1, said the UH-60 pilot, proceeding towards objective Fuji. This is Omega-1, said the UH-1 pilot, confirming, passing the Duma Mountains towards Fuji, over. Nearby Sidera a group of dark elves, warrior bunnies and cat people were working on the field. Okay, said the American sergeant, set up. So we just turn on and put it on the ground? Asked Elf, holding the small device. That's right, said the sergeant, don't worry, it'll show to ours better than any torches. The elf then turned on and put it on the ground. I don't see it, he said, it's not shining. That's because it's invisible to the naked human eye, answered the sergeant. Huh, surprised the elf. "He's right," said the cat man, "I can easily see it." "So have I," said the bunny girl, "it's like giant pillar of light." "Told ya," grinned the sergeant, Pathfinder to receiver. "Receiver here, go ahead, Pathfinder. Strobe lights are all set, landing site is secured. Confirming, Pathfinder. Descending in 3 minutes." Soon, several UH-60 and UH-1 helicopters appeared. From it, came out several Japanese soldiers and US Marines. They've quickly secured the site and started to dig in the ground. "This is Omaha," said the Marine commander, "objective Fuji secured, ready to receive." Then the UH-1 helicopters appeared with their cargo. As the Marines and soldiers unhooked the containers, they've begun to roll them and set up the defensive positions. "Omaha to Starbase," said the Marine commander, "there are no enemy aerial units above objective Fuji. We're now constructing the FOB. Copy that, Omaha," herded from the radio, "take up the defenses and wait for other units to arrive." Affirmative. Omaha out. At the command post, Hazama was receiving reports. "FOB Fuji has now been secured," said one of the officers. "Task Force Bastogne is ready to move," said another. "General Prime's units within Sidera are in position," said the third. "Nearby objective, Bastille?" asked Hazama. Affirmative. Recon confirmed that the guards in there are about 40, with 30 jailers. There are about 300 prisoners held there, including doves. "Are the transportations been secured?" Confirming. Allies from Akusho have secured the number of carriages that will be used to transport the doves and others to base Fuji for the evacuation. After that, the Akusho residents will be transported to Italica, by General Prime's request. "What's the situation at the Jade Palace?" "All fightings have been stopped due to the evacuation of the embassy. The Imperial forces are now controlling the palace, but seem to be stationed outside." "Good. Inform General Prime that he may proceed with the operation, Bastille." "Yes, sir." Nearby the Basan prison, Centurion and his group were getting ready to attack. "No movement, sir," said Atami, while watching the prison through his night watch binoculars. "Looks like they all asleep," said Eric. "Excellent," said Centurion, "we wait for the right moment, then make our moves." "Are the teams in place?" "SAS team is in position, ASN word Scott, Saber and Hunter are ready to seize the western gate." "Tell them to proceed," said Centurion. "Yes, sir." At the western gate, several shadows were crawling in the dark. Silent shots were heard, leaving only dead bodies after. "Clear," said Ferguson, taking the left tower of the gate. "Clear," said Saber, taking the right tower. Then he looked through his night monocle. "Spotted the enemy air defense facility," he said, seeing the Dragoon base. "Affirmative," answered Ferguson, "we got our sights on enemy base." After they set up their targeting device, both commanders sended the words back to Centurion. "Hunter is in position. Saber in position." At the city, several SAS men were moving by the columns, hiding behind them. "This is the devil," said the SAS commander, "we're in position." "Here's Oni," said another Japanese commander, "we're in position." "Sidera to Alnus," said Centurion into his headset, "all teams in positions, ready to proceed." Chinooks and King Stallions were fueled up and waiting for their passengers to arrive, while a quartet of MH-60Ls and MH-47 gigaseconds slowly taxied out to runway and prepared to take off. They would be the vanguard of what was now being called Operation Peace Dove, and would be the first ANF aircraft to enter Sidera. In one of the Nightstalker Chinooks, Taiul sat quietly as the sound of the Special Operations helicopter filled the air. These were the elites, the former Queen had already been working with them, and she would be assisting Skip's Delta Force team in their mission to strike at Zorzal. Needless to say, Taiul was more than happy to finally get a chance to get back at the one person to who had caused her and her people so much suffering hell. She was practically grinning like a demon when she heard just what the other worlders had planned for that monster. For so long, she had dreamed of this day. Not only was the Empire going to burn, but Zorzal would finally get what was coming to him, and the best part, it was all of his doing. In his quest for power and glory, Zorzal had more or less sealed the fate of Sidera. Obviously the other worlders would not burn Sidera to the ground, it was not in their nature from what the former queen had learned. But there was no telling just what would happen to the crown prince or even the empire once all was said and done. Zorzel was the heir to the Sateran throne after all. But right now Tyul knew she needed to focus on the mission at HSND and not politics. She would soon be making a surprise visit on her former master and make him pay for all the pain he has caused. Tyul was no longer content with just simply killing the self-proclaimed emperor. That would have been too easy. Oh no. She wanted Zorzel to know pain and suffering that he had never felt before. She wanted him to know just what true pain and suffering was before he died, that he was in fact mortal like all those he had hurt in the past. There were fates that were more worse than death. This was something Tyul knew all too well. Zorzel was not worthy of a quick and painless death. Monsters like him did not deserve such a luxury. Tyul was going to make sure that the crown prince felt pain and misery like he had never felt before. She was going to personally make him beg for death by the time she was through with him. She was going to make Zorzel pay for everything he had done. Within a few minutes, the Nightstalker helicopters carrying Delta Force had taken off from Alnus Field and had set course for the Imperial capital. They would be joining other Special Forces teams who would be going in to soften up Zorzel's forces before the main assault came. Command wanted a swift and decisive outcome, with as little collateral damage as possible. Zorzel could not be allowed to retaliate, before all the prisoners were to be rescued. Equipment check, barked the commander, inspecting the paratroopers. Shoot secure. Weapons check, ammo check, automatic wire check. All right, men, you good to go. Embark. Thus, the paratroopers from the United States, Russia, Japan and India have boarded their assigned aircraft and settled in for their short flight. Black Sheep, you are clear for takeoff. Roger, Tower, taking off now. Phantom, you are clear for takeoff. Copy that, Tower, taking off. Orioles, you are clear for takeoff. Understood, Tower, taking off. Thus, one by one, the ANF combat aircraft were taking off and set flight towards Sidera. Warhammer, you are clear for takeoff. Copy that, Tower, taking off. Snake Eater, you are clear for takeoff. Copy that, Tower, taking off. Thus the two massive AC-130J-30 aircraft were taking off. Calamity, you are cleared for takeoff. Roger that, Tower, taking off now. Followed the Spectres, the massive C-63 jet also took off and followed them. Attention, all troopers, herded from PA in the transport planes. As you well aware, many of the Japanese citizens and other countries' citizens were been captured and turned to slaves by the Empire. Unfortunately, after the coup in Sidera, now there are also those, who seek peace with us, are also been held captive in Sidera. Their lives are depending on us. As we now embark on your mission, we, the commanders of the Allied nations' forces, have no doubt in your success. Your orders are to carry out your duties with bravery and honor to rescue our allies, that now in danger have been slaughtered by the evil usurper, who's gone mad in his pointless ambitions to defeat us. We expect all of you, elite paratroopers of our world, to do your duties, not bring any shame to the wings of your hearts and make your countries proud. Let this be our order, become the falcons of freedom and bring deliverance to those, who call us for help. Good luck, and God bless you all. The resident of nearby Alnistown could hear the rumble of jet and turboprop engines echo throughout the cold night air, as Japanese and Indian aircraft took to the sky and formed up before setting course for Sidera itself. An hour later, coalition helicopters also took to the air from Italica as well and followed their fixed-wing counterparts towards their intended target. Within several of them, there were also Princess Pina with her knights and Taylor with his warrior bunnies, ready to proceed with the first combined ANF Loyalists operation. Thus Operation Peace Dove has begun. All the transports are taken off and proceeding towards Sidera, said Colonel Respati. The fighter jets should be approaching the Imperial capital by now, said Gibbs. Very well, said Hazama, tell them to proceed to suppress the enemy air forces. Yes, sir. At the air, high above Sidera, a group of Imperial dragoons were flying. It's too hard to breathe, said one of them, there's not enough air for us. We need to descend soon. We must stay here, answered the commander, those barbarians and their steel birds might also come this night. Suddenly, one of the dragoons spotted some light in the west. Sir, lights are coming from the west, he shouted, it must be the enemy. Hunter to Black Sheep, said Ferguson, pointing his laser targeter. The enemy air defense facility has been marked. Copy that, Hunter, heard from the headset. Bombs are locked on target. Bombs away. Soon, 3 PAV-A laser-guided bombs were dropped at the Dragoon base, destroying it completely. Confirming, air defense facility is destroyed, said Ferguson. The Eastern Dragoon base, shouted the Dragoon. You idiot, yelled the commander, drop the flags. I'm hard, cold steel. A cyber battle-ready cosmonaut. Slice it up, shoot to kill. It's only you and I, someone's dying tonight. Is it the spark that ignites? Or the pilot inside with a will to survive? In the fire, through the fight. In the emptiness of space, we prove our might. The Dragoon were frantically dropping flags, but noticed that they're too high to spot the little pieces of cloth. Damn it, he cursed, while dropping the flags. How we're gonna combat those other worlders, if we do not have wyverns that's strong enough to face them? Their crafts are bigger than ancient dragons, for Hardy's sake. His answer has comment, as the 2 missiles blown his commander and other Dragoon to bits. Captain, shouted the Dragoon in horror. Then, he saw 2 steel birds, flying fast towards him. It's them, he shouted in anger, the other worlders. I'll take them with my spear. Riding the wings of iron. Victory forged in fire. Stoking the funeral pyre. We are limitless, out here in outer space. A contest of the modern age. Rages on and engulfs the flames. We are limitless. But as he turned, the approaching F-4J fired his cannon. It hit the wyvern's skin, causing it screech in pain. Shit, cursed the Dragoon, they've hit my wyvern. They've been able to pierce through its scales. As the F-4J passed by him, the Dragoon was shocked to see the pilots inside. Humans, he gasped, humans riding inside the steel bird. Is it the spark that ignites? Or the pilot inside with a will to survive? In the fire, through the fight. In the emptiness of space, we prove our might. I'll skewer them with my spear, growled the Dragoon. But as he turned, he saw the jet disappeared. Where they go? He gasped, frantically looking around, unknown about the F-18 right behind him. Riding the wings of iron. Victory forged in fire. Stoking the funeral pyre. We are limitless, out here in outer space. A contest of the modern age. Rages on and engulfs the flames. We are limitless. The next moment, the Vulcan cannon burst destroyed what's left of the Dragoon and his wyvern. This is Black Sheep, said the pilot, I've got the enemy wyverns taken out. What is that? Shouted one of the gate guards. Saber to Black Sheep, said the Japanese SFG commander, I've got the enemy second facility marked. Copy that, Saber. I'm going in. Bombs away. The next moment, the bombs destroyed the second Dragoon base. What in the name of Emroy is going on? Barked the captain, then suddenly, his head got shot, and he fell dead. Run, shouted the Dragoon commander in the burning base, grab your wyverns and fly out. Oh, no you don't, said the Indian pilot, I've got something for ya. Here, have some mashed potatoes. The Su-30 dropped several cluster bombs, which completely destroyed the Dragoon base. Meanwhile, at the gates, Saber and Hunter teams were taking out the enemy sentries. What the hell's going on? Shouted one of the patrol soldiers. The Dragoon base, shouted another, the other worlders are coming. Correction, asshole, herded from behind, we're already here. Then, with speed and precision, the ghosts grabbed their targets and slit their throats. Back on the towers, Saber team were silently shooting at their targets. This is Saber, said the commander of the Japanese SFG, it's done, the west gate is now secured. This is Hunter, said Ferguson, confirming, the western gates are under our control. Awaiting for further orders. Copy that, Hunter, ASN word Centurion, maintain your position and await for the arrival of the airborne brigade, then you can relieve to them the guard duty and proceed to the extraction point. Understood, strike leader. Hunter out. At the Basan prison, the groups were taking their places. Stand by for the attack, said Centurion, on my mark. 10. 9. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. The next moment, the doors of the prison were been blown to bits by Zeus rocket launcher. Then the machine guns fired, killing the guards. Go, 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 barked Eric, come on, you apes. Do you wanna live forever? Soon, the group has reached the inner perimeter. Eric then motioned to Atami, who pulled out the hand grenade and threw it inside the room. The guards, who were hidden with the crossbows, were surprised to see a small object rolling inside. The next moment, it exploded, killing several of them. Then, Eric and Atami's fireteam stormed in, killing the guards with their rifles. "Clear," shouted Eric. "Clear," echoed Atami. "Nishina," barked Eric, "you and Kuribayashi, follow me. We'll go counterclockwise." "Everyone else, with me," said Atami, "let's go." Shots and screams engulfed the prison, as the jailers and the guards were been hit by the automatic fire. Kuribayashi and Eric with Nishina mercilessly killing the guards, clearing the way. "What's going on?" yelled one of the guards. "It's Otherworlders' magic," shouted another, "go the other way." But as they runned at the hallway, Min and Scott's team took them down with their MRB rifles. The warden of the prison was in panic, as he was desperately trying to escape the wrath of the Otherworlders, only to be get caught by Centurion. "Wah," muttered the terrified warden, looking at the Centurion's demonic ghost's helmet, "what do you want?" "I'll be asking the questions here," answered Centurion, increasing the grip on the warden's throat. "Where are the doves?" "In the cells. Aside them, are there any political prisoners in the facility?" Yes. There are several nobles and peasants in." "What about the criminals? Are there any convicts here?" "No, all the convicts were been taken to the army barracks." "Why am I not surprised?" spat Centurion. "Where are the keys?" "Here." Then Centurion knocked out the warden and took the keys. "This is Strike Leader," he said into his headset, "I've got the keys to the cells." "What's the status?" "All clear," said Eric. "Clear," said Atami. "Clear," said Min. "The object Bastille has been secured, sir," said Scott. "Cosmos, this is Strike Leader," said Centurion into his headset. "Objective, Bastille, has been secured, requesting for transport." "Copy that, Strike Leader," answered from the radio, were 2 clicks from Sidera, ready to proceed. "Understood," said Centurion. "The Shadow Warriors and Ghosts are now proceeding to Objective 2. We'll await your arrival there, over." "Copy that, Strike Leader. We'll see you there." Cosmos out. "What's going on?" yelled Zorzel, as he and his generals stormed out of the palace and into the balcony. "What are those smokes outside the city?" "Those are our dragoon bases, sire," answered Krappa. "Seems that the Otherworlders have destroyed them." "What?" gasped Zorzel. "How?" "It seems that they've attacked from the air, my emperor," answered Kalasta. "Damn it," growled Zorzel, "that means the rest of those blasted Otherworlders are also underway." "My emperor," shouted Mudra, pointing to the sky, "look. Otherworlders' iron birds." Zorzel then saw the planes of the ANF and realized that the enemy has arrived. "It doesn't matter," he said, "once they've landed, our Basilisk Corp will attack them from the air and destroy those birds." "My emperor," said Helm, "I don't think those birds are gonna land." "What?" gasped Zorzel. 6 minutes before jump, cried the jumpmaster inside the Japanese C-1. "On your feet, men," barked Kengan, "hook up." "Yes, sir," answered paratroopers, hooking their cables. "Inspect your equipment," said Kengan, "sound off." "First okay. Second okay. Third okay. Fourth okay. Fifth okay. All right, stand at the door," said Kengan, as the paratroopers moved towards the hatch. "Cosmos 1 on course," said the C-1 pilot, "get ready." Then the green light flashes. "Go, go, go," barked Kengan, as the troopers begin to jump out of the plane. Soon, from every C-1, C-130 and Illinois 78, the paratroopers jumped out of the planes, filling the sky with their parachutes. "That's about it," said Kengan, inspecting the plane, then turning to Jumpmaster, "all out. Thanks for the ride. This is where I get off." He then jumped out of the plane, joining his comrades. Meanwhile, Zorzel on the ground watched the scene with shock. "What?" he gasped, "what are those?" "It's the enemy," cried Herm, "they're raining from the sky." "This is not possible," shouted Kalasta, "how can they fall from the sky without hurting themselves?" "They've seemed to be using some kind of kites," said Mudra, "we must counterattack them, now." "Yes, Mudra," said Zorzel, "they may be able to come from the sky, but we've got the superior numbers. Order the 3rd and 4th Corps to move in and crush those barbarians, like the insects they are." "Sire," I'm afraid, that is not possible. ASN word Krappa, both 3rd and 4th Corps has suffered a great damage during the night attack from enemy's steel birds. And the 2nd Corps also has suffered the damage, but from the hands of the Knights and other worlders during the assault on Jade Palace, when it was assisting the 1st Corps. Right now, the only corp we have is the 1st, but it's occupying the Jade Palace. Forget the occupation. Send the corp to the western gate to repel the enemy. Yes, sire. My emperor, said the soldier, kneeling before Zorzel and his men, I've got real disturbing news. The western gate has been taken over by the enemy Contubernum, who's now controlling the Basan prison as well. They've now occupied the bridge over Morua River and holding their positions. Our units cannot break through them. What? Gasped Herm, they're here. It must be those forces from the Akusho, said Kalasta, that means, Centurion Prime has sended his best men to capture the western gate, so that they'll be ready for the main attack force that now coming from the sky. Damn it, cursed Zorzel, looking terrified, that means, he'll be looking for me. He then quickly remembered, how Kuribayashi beaten him to death, and it terrified him to the core. Send the orders to the 1st, 2nd and the remains of 3rd and 4th Corps, he ordered, to move in to defend the Imperial Palace. We will make a stand here. But sire, said Herm, that means, we'll be forced to pull off the forces from Akusho and the Jade Palace. Who cares about the Akusho and Jade Palace? Spat Zorzel, what matter is, that the other worlders are obviously will be coming after me, your emperor. You must protect your ruler at all cost. As you command, sire, answered Herm, send messengers to all our corps to relocate to Imperial Palace. Back on the outside of the city, the paratroopers have landed. As they've took out their chutes and prepare the weapons, Atami's 3rd Recon team were busy holding the bridge. Cease fire, ordered Atami, this is 3rd Recon, we got the enemy falling back at the Morua Brig. On the western gate, Saber and Hunter were also holding their positions. Saber here, said Saber into his radio, we got the enemy retreating as well. Confirming, said Ferguson, looks like the enemy is pulling out as well. Back at the palace, Zorzel was getting nervous. Why aren't the troops haven't arrived? He growled, we need to reinforce the defenses of the Imperial Palace at once. The troops have already begun their movements, my emperor, said Krappa, but it takes some time, before they'll arrive. Then go to them and have them speed it up, said Zorzel, we must make sure, that the other worlders does not even come a league before the palace. As you command, sire, said Herm, and he with others leaves. Damn it, groaned Zorzel, I didn't expect Centurion to move so fast. It's those blasted magical devices, those machines. They're the ones, that gives him such edge before our horses and wyverns. Now he's coming after me, and all I can do is sit and wait. Oh, the stress. Suddenly, he felt soft hands on his shoulders. He turned to see Cassiopeia. You don't need to be worried, my emperor, she cooingly whispered to his ear, I'm right here, and if necessary, I can protect you, sire. Thank you, Cassiopeia, smiled weakly Zorzel, but still, it doesn't relieve the pain. I'm like a bird in golden cage, while my enemy is out there coming for me. And the worst part is, there's nothing I can do to stop him. Sire, said Cassiopeia, I don't think they'll be coming here. What? Surprised Zorzel, what do you mean? Well, it's obvious that their actual target is the Basan prison, where the doves are been held, explains Cassiopeia, that's why they're coming from the western gate, not eastern, where it's much closer to Imperial Palace. So that means, said Zorzel, they'll be coming for the Jade Palace as well. And that also means, that Pina and her knights will be also coming back. It's brilliant, he then jumped to his feet. What is it, sire? Asked Cassiopeia. Don't you get it? Exclaimed Zorzel, they'll be coming to Jade Palace to announce Pina as the new empress. After all, Daddy did appointed her over me. And that'll give us a perfect opportunity to counterattack. We'll wait until they all come to the palace, then strike at them with our superior numbers, and bang, he slammed his fist on his palm, they'll be all crushed. That's a brilliant idea, my emperor, smiled Vendetta, I knew that you wouldn't let the terror of that tragedy get into your head. Well, I've been learning, after all, boasted Zorzel proudly. Suddenly, they've heard the odd sound outside. Both Zorzel and Cassiopeia looked outside to see a swarm of ANF helicopters that were flying towards Sidera. "What are those?" gasped again horrified Zorzel. "It's a swarm of monsters," said Cassiopeia. Outside the city, several catapult crews prepared their ballistas, only to be blasted to bits by the A-1J's machine guns. "Attack!" barked Marine Captain, "give them hell, men. Let's go." From the UH-53 Super Stallion, several Marines sliced down to the towers. Hand grenades were been thrown in the holes of the towers, blowing their garrisons to bits. While outside, several Chinooks landed to release some HMMVs and jeeps. Pina and her knights were also came out of the Chinooks, accompanied by Taylor's team. "Hop in, Your Majesty," said Davidson from the HMMV, "we'll give you the ride to your capital." "Thank you, Captain," answered Pina, as she and her knights boarded the HMMVs and drive towards Sidera. As the ANF troopers entered the capital, they saw several terrified people behind the closed windows but ignore them. Then, Colonel Kengan meet up with Saber and Hunter teams. "Welcome to Sidera, Colonel," saluted Saber, "we'll lead you to Jade Palace, as ordered." "Thank you," answered Kengan, "what's the current situation at the area?" "Our drones shown to us that the enemy has a regiment-size force at the palace," said Ferguson, showing Kengan the images on his tactical tablet. "There appear to be several trolls and ballistas here, and here." "I see," said Kengan, "that means they're expecting us. We need to use mortars to take out those trolls and ballistas. I'll lead the Australian SAS team with our unit to Jade Palace. You guys make sure that all the prisoners from Busan prison are been taken to Fuji for evacuation." "Yes, sir." At the Busan prison, 3rd Recon were working on the evacuation of the doves, together with Misery and other Akusho girls. Kuribayashi, beamed Lady Cicero, hugging the buxom Japanese soldier, "Am I glad to see you?" "Ah, just doing my job, ma'am," shyly answered Shino. "By the way, is your husband all right?" "Yes, but he's in the real financial crisis," said Lady Cicero, "since the sweepers took out his house, we're practically lost everything valuable to us. By the way, are you gonna take us to Japan?" "Not at all," said Shino, "we've been ordered to evacuate you to Italica by the agreement between our command and Princess Pina." "Well, that's nice," smiled Lady Cicero, "I guess Her Highness will be much better ruler than her brother." "Okay, everyone is boarded," said Atami, "let's move out." Soon, the caravan of carriages were moving out of the city. Meanwhile, Kengan were driving with the rest of the forces towards the Jade Palace. "Looks like everything is going according to plan, Colonel," said the SAS captain. "We've safely evacuated the prisoners from Busan and taking them to Fuji for the evacuation." "What about the enemy forces?" "It seemed that they've been gathering at the Imperial Palace, must be thinking that we're going there to take down Emperor Zorzel." "Well, as much as I would love to go and kick the ass of that arrogant bastard," snorted Kengan, "we're not in position to do such things. Our forces are only strong to mount an attack on Jade Palace. According to plan, that'll make Zorzel believe that we're planning to turn it into the second Imperial Palace and crown Princess Pina there as the new Empress. But in reality, it'll be a decoy to draw the Imperial forces there, so that the evacuation of the doves will proceed as scheduled. Our job is to draw as much attention there as we can get, then leave the place before they'll know what's been really going on." "All right," said the SAS captain, "sounds like a perfect plan. Let's do it." As Captain Davidson and Taylor's cars stopped at the reserve barracks, Boses and Beefeater jumped out of the vehicles and ran to the stables. "The horses are all here, Your Highness," shouted Boses. "All right, mount up," said Pina, "it's time for us to retake the Jade Palace." "Yes, Your Highness," grinned Beefeater, "don't worry, with these magical swords Sir Stark has given us, those sweepers will stood no chance." She then showed what appeared to be a Japanese-style sword, but in reality, it was a vibrosword that uses sonic vibrations to shatter the crystal structure of the metal, so it can slice through it. "Well," smiled Pina, "I think you'll get a chance to test these swords in real combat, Beefeater. Now, come on, we've got working to do." "Your Highness," said Taylor, "I'll go to the Jade Palace, where my team will provide the medical assistance to our forces." "Yes, Sir Taylor," answered Pina. "Okay, let's move out. On to Jade Palace." Meanwhile, within the Imperial camp at the Jade Palace, Lord Callisto El Alman inspected his troops one final time. The nobleman had more or less inherited the title of chairman of the Praetoria after the untimely death of Lord Gimlet, and was now tasked with occupying the Jade Palace himself. This would be a task easier said than done, seeing that not only the chairman knew just how powerful the other worlders were, but the Imperial soldiers his group commanded were less than cooperative. Apparently they too were well aware of just what the allied nations' forces were capable of, but were not willing to blindly follow the Scorchiers to what they believed to be certain destruction. As far as the chairman was concerned, these so-called soldiers were a disgrace to the Imperial military and the Empire as a whole. Just how could these men call themselves soldiers when they are unwilling to die for the Empire? But no matter, with Emperor Zorzel there was no doubt in Callisto's mind that the new Imperial military would be nothing like the mess it was now. Soon, Emperor Zorzel would be quite pleased and Callisto would cement himself as one of the great heroes of the new empire. But as dreams of fame and fortune began to dance within his fragile mind, the Imperial noble noticed a small object land at his feet. But before he could guess just what it was, the unfortunate chairman was engulfed in hellfire and damnation, as the SAS grenade did what it was designed to do. The explosion rocked the immediate area and sent burning hot shrapnel into everything and everyone who were unfortunate enough to be caught in the blast radius. But no sooner had Callisto been killed, several more explosions rocked the Imperial lines as automatic gunfire erupted from both the tree line and the Jade Palace itself. "What's going on?" gasped Rufilus. "It's the other worlders," shouted Rufilus, "they're back." 20 meters, charge 0, fire for the effect, barked Centurion. "Yes, sir," answered SAS Captain, "fire." Next moment, several Austrian commando mortars fired, unleashing their deadly ammo at the Scorchiers and Imperial soldiers. "All units, commence firing," ordered Kengan. Next moment, the tree lines exploded with staccato of machine gun fire, as the Japanese Hoa rifles and Belgian-made M88 rifles were firing at the Imperials with deadly accuracy. "Scott, you and Alpha Team proceed to the palace and secure it," said Centurion, "we'll cover you." "Got it, sir," answered Scott, "follow me, men." He and the ghosts rushed towards the Jade Palace by using the garden growths as cover. Soon, they've reached the palace. "All clear, sir," said Min. "It looks like the sweepers didn't even bother to fully seizing the palace." "Good," said Mitchell. "Now, set your positions and hit those wolf heads from behind. Time to clean up this house." "Yes, sir." The ghosts rushed out of the palace, firing their rifles. Several of them were throwing the grenades. "Suppressing the enemy," shouted Foster. "Target the ballista trolls," said Centurion, "they're the main bulk of the enemy force." "Yes, sir," answered SAS Captain, "all machine guns, concentrate your firepower on the big lumps near the ballistas. Snipers, kill every wolf-headed Imperial you see, they're the political officers. Take them out, and the moral of the enemy will fall." "Yes, sir." Soon, almost every troll were been shoot to kill. Snipers targeted the sweepers, who were easily identified due to their wolf-headed black armor, and fired their rifles, killing them. "Incoming arrows," shouted Spider, "take cover." Soon, the volley of arrows hit the soldiers' positions. "Shit, we got wounded," cried one of the Japanese medics. "Do not pull that arrow," shouted Michiru, "it'll make only worse, once you pull it out." "Fall back to the 20 meters and keep suppressive fire," ordered Kengan. "The enemy is running," shouted the sweepers, "attack! Attack!" As the soldiers charged at the positions of the ANF, Centurion then fired his GP-34 underbarrel grenade launcher. "Use the grenade launchers and mortars," he ordered, "we gotta suppress that attack. All mortars, concentrate your fire at the enemy archers. Grenadier, fire your grenades at the enemy troops. Machine gunners, suppressive fire. Snipers, take out those wolf heads. Give them no quarter, men." The Japanese and the SAS fired their launchers, hitting the soldiers with numerous grenades. Mortars have been firing at the archers, decimating their numbers. Machine gunners fired their mini-me machine guns, hitting numerous legionaries, while snipers were shooting at the sweepers. Soon, the death of several sweepers has caused the Imperials on the left flank to disintegrate. "What the hell's going on?" barked the commander of 1st Corps, "why our soldiers are running." Then, Several more sweepers got killed by snipers. Eek, squealed in fear Rufulus, hiding behind the horse. What is this? Are the other worlders have sended their magicians to kill us? Sir, said Kengan, the enemy is in disarray. We need one more push to finally drive them off the palace. Then it's time for Pina to begin her counter-attack, said Centurion, then fired his flare. Nearby the palace, Rose order were been gathered. The signal, shouted Bozes. Then it's time, said Pina, raising her sword. Rose order of the knights, follow me. From the trees, came out the group of horses, ridden by the knights. The earth shaked, as the horses charged at the Imperials. Forward, my sisters, shouted Pina, forward to victory. The Imperial soldiers were shocked to see the group of female knights attacking them. Several of them run, while others choosed to stay and fight. Next moment, the knights' lances crashed into the lines of Imperials, piercing the armor and flesh. Hold your ground, yelled one of the remaining sweepers, stand and fight. This is pointless, yelled one of the Imperial soldiers, how can we win against both other worlders and those women? Why you defeatist, growled the sweeper, turning to him, all. The next moment, his head was been shot, and the Imperial soldiers then turned and run. -1 big bad wolf, Spider commented his shot. Shadow warriors, to your cyclones, said Centurion, we must give Pina and her knights some cover fire. Yes, sir, answered Haruka, I've been just waiting to give those girls a helping hand. Send the remaining cavalry to stop those knights, ordered the 1st Corps commander, let's show them how the soldiers of Emperor Caesar fight and die. Soon, a group of heavy armored knights rided towards Pina's knights. The odds were not in Princess's favor, a group of light armored knights versus heavy armored cavalry. Then suddenly, from the sky, lasers fired at the Imperial cavalry, decimating their ranks. The Rose Knights were confused for a moment, when they heard it. Yo Joe. They looked to see Centurion and his shadow warriors, firing their weapons from above. But that's not all. To Centurion's armor hanged Rory Mercury. She jumped at the Imperial cavalry and started slicing them apart, while madly laughing. It's Sir Prime and Apostle of Emroy, shouted Bozes. Now, shouted Pina, attack. They've attacked, and Pina's sword sliced over the face of scared and screaming Rufulus, while Rory sliced the 1st Corps commander apart. Rufulus was running scared, but Bozes was hot on his trail. You're not gonna get away from me, you scoundrel, she shouted. No, shouted terrified Rufulus. Burn in hell, shouted Bozes, thrusting her sword in Lufulus's heart, killing him. Well, said Centurion, seeing this, that's that. Looks like the Jade Palace is under our control. Let's see how the place was been damaged during the assault. Soon, in Jade Palace, Centurion were receiving the reports. The 11th Company has suffered 6 casualties, said Kengan, all light injuries. We're currently searching through the forest for any stragglers. The SAS 22nd Company has 2 injured, said the SAS captain, also light injury by enemy arrows. The Rose Order of the Knights has suffered greatly during the siege of the palace, said Pina, but fortunately, those, who's alive, are now been taken to Italica and Alnus for healing. Right now, we've got only few light injured members, but they'll be alright. I must admit, Sir Prime, this armor your armorer Sir Stark has built sure is far durable than our previous armor. Who do you think has made my Mjolnir armor? Chuckled Centurion, when it comes to armor, you've gotta hand it to Tony, he's the best in it. Well, I think you'll be get used to it, because from now on, you and your knights will be working with us more strongly than before, your highness. The civil war has already begun, and you'll be needing to rely on your knights more than ever, Pina. I know, Sir Prime, said Pina, which is why I need to talk with you, in private. Okay, said Centurion, and they walked into one of the rooms. Sir Grey has told me about your meeting with Flare and other gods, said Pina, but tell me, is it true that our world is practically doomed? We're not sure yet, Pina, answered Centurion. Right now, we're working on the details to send an expedition to Chapney Mountains, where Lucina and Granham will be waiting for us. Their job will be to inspect the damage done by Apocryph and to estimate the time we've got before it consumes the Falmart. However, I can say that right now, all our chances to save this world are quite low. Then the main reason why the gods have opened the gate, said Pina, was because they wanted to save us. And my father has decided to start a war instead, she then groaned, covering her eyes with hand. Oh, father. What madness did possess you, so that you would not only doomed our empire, but also your own people? Calm down, Pina, said Centurion, coming to her and putting his hands on her shoulder. Your father has made a typical mistake any ruler would make in our world, yet, he didn't know that it could lead to this. But it doesn't change the fact that right now everything we can do will be pointless, said in desperation Pina. Even if we can make peace, it'll still does not gonna save the empire, because this apocryph thing will soon consume our world. We might as well throw ourselves to your feet and beg to save us. Perish the thought, snorted Centurion, don't babble such nonsense, Pina. There's still the chance for you to save the people of Falmart. But how? Asked Pina. I don't know what to do, where should I start? I thought that right after I build the new government, all I need to do is to make peace with the ANF, then defeat Zorzel, and only then decide what to do next. And now, all these plans are gone in flames. It's like the gods themselves are mocking over me. Centurion then hugged Pina, making her gasp in surprise. If I remember correctly, he asked, you didn't want to become an empress? Yes, said Pina embarrassingly, all I thought is to bring peace to the empire, then to study more in art. I've never wanted to become an empress. And yet, you've chosen to lead your people, said Centurion. Why then, Pina? Why didn't you just leave Sidera, like your sisters did? Because I love my people and my home, answered Pina. I don't want to see it get destroyed by Zorzel's madness. It's called patriotism, Pina, said Centurion. You're doing exactly what your fatherland has wanted you to do in order to serve your country and your people. Same thing I did, when I've become the Centurion. I wanted to save my world from its destruction, that's why I've become what I am now. We didn't choose our jobs, Pina, it chosen us. And now, it's up to you to save your people from being destroyed by apocryph. All you need to do, is to listen to the voice of your heart, it will tell you what to do. Pina then looked at Centurion and smiled. Thank you, Sir Prime, she said, you've helped me once more to understand what I need to do. Therefore, there's something I need to ask you to do. What is it? I need to speak with my brother and the Hawks personally. Back at the Imperial Palace, Zorzel was receiving the reports. So, they've taken the Jade Palace, he grinned, excellent. Now, we can begin our counter-attack. Send our forces from the Imperial Palace towards the Jade Palace to destroy Centurion Prime and his forces. This time, we'll be victorious. My Emperor, it would be wise to send our forces to the Western Gate as well, said Krappa, that way, we can trap our enemy inside Sidera. Yes, that's an excellent idea, Krappa, said Zorzel, send out our cavalry. They'll cut the barbarians from their ilk outside Sidera. We'll crush them here now. Victory to the Empire. Hail Emperor Zorzel El Caesar, shouted the Hawks, hail Sidera. Hail victory. Outside the Sidera at the Fob Fuji, several Chinooks were loaded with the doves and several other nobles. They've soon taken off and flied towards Italica. Well, we better get going, said Misery, it would be unwise for us to return to Akusho after today's event. I think, Alnus will be much nicer, at least, we won't have to sell ourselves there to others. Good luck with that, Misery, smiled Kurakawa, I'll see you there. Thanks, honey, said Misery, getting onto the carriage with Taiwal and Prairie. Let's go, guys. The carriages with the former prostitutes drive away to their new life, as Centurion and others have arrived. Tomita, suddenly shouted Bozes, seeing her lover, Tomita. The Japanese soldier turned to her. Bozes, he shouted, as the blonde knight jumped from her horse and literally threw herself into his arms. Well, now there's a happy couple, smiled Centurion, good thing, they'll be riding to Italica together. Well, I hope, Bozes will be alright, said Pina, I've noticed that she might be pregnant. Really? Surprised Centurion, now that's something new. But I think, Bozes isn't the only one who found her love here. I know, smiled Pina, looking at Kengan and Beefeater together, with Beefeater looking shy, they've been going like this since their meeting in Italica. After she stayed in Alnus, she has visited several times Colonel in his quarters, but she was too shy to tell that. Ain't that the romance, chuckled Centurion, well, I think, their ride together back to Alnus will help them more on their relations. Yes, said Pina, she need to go there to check on our injured sisters. I just wish I could go there. You can, if you refuse, said Centurion. No, Sir Prime, said Pina, looking serious, this one's important. I must meet with Zorzel and those others to tell them about my father's decision and to know, that are they ready to serve the Empire or are they really a group of traitors? They've committed crime against the Empire, and for that, they must be punished. So, my decision stays firm. But you know, that this is dangerous, said Centuin. Not to worry, answered Pina, I've got you and your warriors with me. Besides, Hamilton will also come with me, she'll be useful to us. Good, said Centurion, Atami and Eric are also coming with us. Their presence are been required for this mission, as well as Rory. And there's our last members of the team. Then, appeared Skip with Tyul. Sir, he saluted, Delta Force Team Bravo reporting for duty. Welcome back, Skip, said Centurion, shaking his hand, I'd see, that you and your team are ready to play your part in our next operation. That's affirmative, sir, said Skip. So, Tyul, said Centurion, I'd see, that you've decided to help us get even with Zorzel. It's my personal business, Sir Prime, answered the rabbit woman. Just remember, said Centurion, our orders were not to kill Zorzel. Don't worry, frowned Tyul, I won't, a simple death will be too easy for him. And from what Sir Lang has told me, he's in for a real pain, once your laws get their hands on him. As for me, I've got my promises to keep. Then, a soldier appeared. Sir, he said, our posts have sighted the enemy cavalry, coming real fast. Do not engage, ordered Centurion, prepare the base for self-destruct. Tell our forces to fall back to Duma Mountains. Move out. Yes, sir, said the soldier and leaves. Let's go, your highness, said Centurion. Yes, Sir Prime, answered Pina. The helicopters quickly took off, while the vehicles were driving off to Duma Mountains. Meanwhile, Centurion with his team, Delta Force, Tyul, Pina, Hamilton, Atami, Eric and Rory were driving to Sedera. When the Imperial Cavalry has arrived at the Fob Fuji, they've heard some strange beep. A few moments later, a powerful explosion destroyed more than half of the Imperial Cavalry, thus making Zorzel really unhappy with another defeat. This is the end of part 20 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel to see more amazing contents.